Welcome, everyone. Joe with ECRM and Range Me. And with me today is Alex Nisenzon of Charm, which is an e-commerce intelligence platform that provides in-depth analytics on D2C brands. And today we're going to talk about trends and some best practices for TikTok Shop. Now, I know over the past weekend, everybody was worried. It shut down for a little bit. But now that Trump did an executive order that granted a little bit of a reprieve for I think through April. They're still going strong. In fact, I actually bought these on TikTok Shop on the 19th, an hour after they opened. So it's still running, still going good, and their buyers are actually still going to ECRM sessions and they're active on RangeBee. So we're going to dive into this. So, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. And to start off, just give us an overview of the state of social commerce in general and then TikTok Shop specifically. Why has that platform been so successful so fast?
Yeah. First, thanks for having me, Joe. Really excited to chat with you today. So, I think to kind of take a step back, what got me so excited about social commerce was a stat that I read early last year that said something like 25% of all e-commerce sales in China back in 2022 were driven through social commerce platforms. And for the rest of the world in 2025, this year, that number is going to be at 17%. And that number really blew my mind because that's massive, massive penetration. When you think about all the shopping people do online, for
Mhm.
17% of that now for the rest of the world to happen through social commerce is really astounding. And when you looked at the landscape last year of which platforms were leading the charge, it was really TikTok Shop that was, far and away in the lead. What's really insane is when you think about kind of social commerce in markets like China that was largely driven through behaviors around things like live stream shopping, right? And these are things that really never took off before TikTok Shop in the US.
Mhm.
And last year, TikTok Shop launched, they launched at the end of 2023. So last year was their first year and they did over 7.3 billion in GMV in their first year in the US. So that's just insane. I mean, if you think about how many years it took for a platform like Amazon to get to that kind of scale, it's really just miraculous. And, while in the US, the live stream portion of the shopping is still not what it's like for, TikTok or other platforms in other markets. It's definitely smaller. I think it's something like 20 or 23% of sales happened through live stream and the rest was through pre-recorded videos in the shopping tab. It still really shows that this was the first platform to get consumers to shift their behaviors and start buying through this true social experience. Whereas the other platforms, whether that's, Instagram or Snapchat or YouTube, are really still leading into the advertising play of, getting people to leave that platform because they saw an ad, even if that ad is influencer driven. And so I think that was just really what was amazing to me about TikTok is that they really nailed that experience.
Yeah, and I know, especially at our ECRM sessions, brands are always really interested, really looking forward to meeting with the buyers from TikTok Shop, and they really have made it so easy. I mean, with my purchase that I made, it was literally my first purchase that I've ever made with TikTok Shop. But as soon as it went live, right? Because I kept checking in and refreshing. As soon as it went live again, the first thing I saw was some influencer talking about this great deal of dude wipes for like $13 for six. And I was like, you know what? That's a great thing. A great deal. Let me see. And I went in there, boom, within seconds. Now the only problem is it's going to be very addictive. It's going to be, and knowing how fast it gets here and knowing everything that's on there, I'm going to be in trouble. So,
Yeah.
but uh, but yeah, it's just it makes it so seamless, so easy, and the people are already there. And that's the thing is TikTok is so driven by interest. It's driven by people's interests. So you already got their attention looking at these things, and just sliding the products in there, it's just a no-brainer. So you're going to get them while they're really interested in it. So, what are some of the top performing categories on TikTok Shop, and why do you think it's so? And I know the top one is beauty because we just had our beauty session, and obviously there was a lot of buzz about that because of what was happening. But what are the top categories?
So the top three are beauty,
Hmm.
women's wear, and then health,
Hmm.
followed by sports and outdoor, and then
Hmm.
phones and electronics. And I think, logically, it's going to be skewing towards categories where the products in those categories are easy to be demonstrated
Hmm.
by the creators that are, selling those products.
Hmm.
Home goods, for example, they do pretty well. And I mean, everything is relative because with 7.3 billion in total, all of the top categories are still doing, hundreds of millions. But
Hmm.
beauty did 1.5 billion as the top category. Women's wear did a billion. And that makes a lot of sense because,
Hmm.
when you think about the creator content, there's a lot of these creators that are doing makeup tutorials or trying on different makeup products or doing makeup reviews, right? And because of also the price point of makeup and cosmetics, it lends itself very naturally to being sold on a platform like
Hmm.
TikTok. And so I think it's going to consistently kind of skew towards those categories that kind of fit in better with being creator driven. But that's not to say that other categories like home goods and even auto accessories, they still do well too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it makes a lot of sense, that list. I'm only surprised that food is not a little bit higher, because food is something that you could demonstrate, right? Cooking classes or live cooking classes, cooking demonstrations, things like that, how to use these ingredients. I just thought food would be a little bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, just looking now. So food did about 260 million in
Hmm.
sales last year. So again, right, it's all relative. That's still a ton for a first year on
Hmm.
the US market. I think the other dynamic that's really interesting is when you look at TikTok Shop, because we analyze the data across all markets that TikTok operates
Hmm.
and not just the US. And when you
Hmm.
look across markets, especially in APAC, consumers kind of behavior has really shifted to more purchases of everyday items there.
Hmm.
So like dude wipes is a great example, although I would say that's a little bit on the kind of the cusp of novelty and everyday, right? It's like
Hmm.
it's not toilet paper. It's like the next phase,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like you're still gonna get your toilet paper at Costco or your
Hmm.
grocery store. But if you look at certain markets, like we did an analysis in Vietnam, and
Hmm.
I was shocked at the volumes of diapers being purchased on TikTok Shop, like
Hmm.
tens of millions of dollars of diapers a month being sold on TikTok Shop. And so,
Hmm.
I think it's just a matter of time in terms of the US market and that behavioral shift from just,
Hmm.
more of kind of specialty or novelty items to more really everyday purchases. And, before you know it, I can see people buying their toothpaste and, just everyday household platform.
Actually, that's a really good point, and you saw what happened during the pandemic, where all of a sudden people went from buying all that stuff at the store to buying it
Yeah,
everyday center store, or everyday personal care items on e-commerce. So, and then also I think there's probably a lot more beauty influencers than there are food influencers
for sure.
that are out
For
there,
sure.
and that might have something to do with it, if it's the content is driving it.
Yeah, you also have the concept of like perishable versus non-perishable food. It gets a little, iffier with the
Hmm.
shipping, fulfillment becomes harder and
Hmm.
more expensive. Like I think the best-selling food products on TikTok are more of like snacks. Like there's these
Hmm.
brownies, I forget what they're called, like these protein brownies or something
Hmm.
that have done incredibly well. Different chocolate done well. But yeah, I think food overall is a tougher category for those reasons.
Yeah, it's got to be shelf stable.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we've had couple of brands I've spoken with have done. There was one that makes a Vietnamese pho that you could prepare in 10 minutes, and he did very well with live TikToks, demonstrating the product and stuff. But again, it's shelf stable. It's you just add hot
Like
water
an instant soup. What I
and yeah,
lived off in college.
yep, on steroids, basically. They actually just got a deal from Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank.
Oh,
But
really?
they've landed a few. They're in Walmart, and a few other retailers from Range Me. So it's called Falicious is the name of the brand. So, but he did a lot.
Mr. Wonderful was one of the bidders trying to get TikTok. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, yes, I saw that too. So, yeah, maybe there'll be some sort of way they can all work together. So, all right. So TikTok Shop has various channels, right? They have pre-recorded videos, they have the shopping mall, they have live streaming. Which perform best, and what types of products or occasions are best suited for each of those channels?
Yeah, great question. So look, I think, when you look globally, the
Hmm.
best performing channel is live streams. About 35, almost 36% of all sales
Hmm.
globally across all markets are through live streams, with pre-recorded videos just slightly behind that.
Hmm.
In the US specifically, pre-recorded videos still have the lion's share. So live streams are definitely still a minority in terms of the sales driven. In the US, the live stream share is about 23% and
Hmm.
pre-recorded videos about 55%. So the vast majority across all categories. And then within certain categories, you do see differences in trends. So, like for example, within the health category, there's more of a skew towards live streams. There, it's about 34% live streams. Same thing with kitchenware for whatever reason. But like something like beauty is more at around 20% is
Hmm.
live streams. What we've seen also is that the share coming from live stream sales, like out of total sales, has been growing over months. And then also live streams tend to do particularly well around specific shopping events. So, Black Friday, there
Hmm.
were a bunch of really well advertised live streams happening where there were very specific sales happening. And so that drove, a large volume of purchases. It's hard to differentiate between the channel being the driver of the behavior or just where consumers are getting the best deal. Like
Hmm.
if they know that a live stream is happening and there's going to be a 50% discount, then they're going to go to that live stream to buy
Hmm.
it because that live stream is well marketed. But I think that's also one of the things that TikTok has done really well is kind of cross promoting those behaviors, right? So they know that this is new for consumers in a market like the US. And so they're incentivizing people to shift their behaviors and go to these new buying channels like live streams. And over time, I think that'll kind of stick, and then people will start naturally, digesting content that way.
Gotcha. It's kind of like, managing their behaviors, just
Exactly.
reinforcing their behaviors with these deals and opportunities. So in general, how do users discover products on TikTok? Is it more of an impulse thing? They kind of, they're consuming content and the opportunity comes up. Are more of them starting to actually look for products specifically in the mall and the stores? How's that happening?
Yeah, so look, I think the one of the reasons that TikTok has in particular been so successful is because the two parts to social commerce are the social and the commerce, right? And they led very heavily with the social piece
Mhm.
before the shopping part even substantial at all. It was really just a social platform, and so people are used to watching those silly videos and following creators and having their network or audience within there of people that they want to enjoy content from. And so I think that's really what's driving the majority of sales today. It's a lot less driven by searching for specific products like you would
Mhm.
do on an Amazon or other marketplace and or on a Google, right? It's more about seeing what the people you care about or are following are
Mhm.
recommending and are talking about, and then that driving your purchase decisions. Now, having said that, I think that, there's a lot of brands that have TikTok specific product launches or are only on TikTok. And so when people hear about those things, even off of TikTok, they're going on TikTok specifically looking for those products, right? And then the other piece that TikTok has done really well is they've given shops or brands, right? They've given them really strong incentives that they can pass on to their customers in the form of coupons or discounts. And so what that ends up kind of trickling down to is that a lot of these shops end up bundling products together. Like, for example, Tarte Cosmetics, which is the best-selling beauty brand in 2024 on TikTok Shop, they have their best-selling product that did about 10 million of sales for them was their trending trio, they call it. Part of the reason that those bundles do so well is because it ends up being a bigger discount and incentive for the end customer. And so that's, I think, just another example of a really great job by TikTok to incentivize the right behaviors.
Yeah, mine was pure impulse. I mean, it was literally the first thing that popped up. And it was I'm assuming it was probably an influencer that they're working with because uh it wasn't from Dude Wipes, it was another person, but then the link went to Dude Wipe shop. But literally it's the first thing that hit me once I got back into it, and I was like, okay, that's it. But you're right, that seamless integration of content, that the content that's driving our interest. I mean, we're already interested in that content, and it kind of segues right into the purchase.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not like, the old shopping shows where they're just, taking you through the features of the product. Like they do it in a fun and engaging
Hmm.
way. And even if you're not interested in the product, you might still watch it. And then
Yeah.
the next time you might buy the product or you might buy the product in a store. Like
Hmm.
I don't know, have you purchased Dude Wipes prior to this?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So you were familiar with the brand before.
Yes, yeah. Actually, they're a customer of ours too. I interviewed them. They actually, it's funny. They did very well at our convenience and impulse session. And shortly after that, I was talking to a friend of mine who's in construction, and he's like, "Man, we all use Dude Wipes. Like
Yeah.
everybody on this construction site, it's Dude Wipes. That's it. Dude Wipes for everything."
It's a great brand.
Yeah, so I was familiar with them before that, but yeah, it just boom, it hit me. I was like, just opportunity was there. Speaking of content, so what kind of content drives sales the best?
So look, I mean, it's hard to say that there's a single formula. I'll say that in general, what we see is that the most successful shops are working with a very, very broad affiliate content creator base,
Hmm.
right? This isn't a situation where a shop has one specific creator that is, driving, all the sales for them. Like there's less of the Kim Kardashians, if you will, of
Hmm.
TikTok that are responsible for all the sales happening. I mean, there
Yeah.
are the top, creators like there's Daniel Athena and some others that are driving a disproportionate volume of
Hmm.
sales in certain categories, but in reality, I think that what most shops have realized is that to be most effective, they need to have a really wide net in terms of creators they're working with.
Hmm.
And because of how TikTok has set up their affiliate program, it's very easy to kind of engage with many creators and to kind of distribute your products in a way that you have many creators kind of representing your products or your right? And so, in terms of the content itself, again, it depends on the specific category, but within beauty, it's a lot of try on, different cosmetics,
Hmm.
trialing product videos. Within apparel, it's the same thing. So I think it's very category specific in terms of the content itself. We also see a lot of videos that are representing like many more than one product, right? So
Hmm.
it's very common for a creator to, do a video where they're putting on seven different outfits, and then of them as shop opportunities for their customers. So I think that's another thing that's been pretty interesting to see. I mean, there's
Hmm.
definitely still a lot of videos where it's just one product being represented, but there's a good distribution of that.
Gotcha. It seems to be a little more like these promos or the content seems to be a little more organic. It looks like regular TikTok, like
For sure.
the dude that sold me on the Dude Wipes was just it was almost like a selfie video. He's like, "Oh, guys, you got to check out this deal," and it was no production expenses. It was very simple, but it worked.
For sure. And I mean, look, I think, not to get back to the ban discussion, but I think one of the things that was really sad about the potential ban was that it was going to impact a lot of these creators,
Hmm.
right? A lot of these solopreneurs that have made a living by just, doing what they love, which is creating these fun videos, whether that's
Hmm.
from an advertising perspective or a shop perspective on TikTok. And that's really who would have been harmed the most. So I'm
Hmm.
glad that there's kind of a reprieve there, and hopefully that stays.
Yeah, and I guess kind of like how to videos or like you said, things that represent a transformation, right? Someone going from one dress to another dress to another, or makeup all of a sudden, before and after, something that
Yeah,
shows that like this is how
absolutely.
you fix it with this product, and here's the fixed thing, whether it's a glue or a tape or whatever. So,
The get ready with me
mhm.
videos are huge. That's a big one, whether that's for clothing or for makeup. I mean, that's a big trend too.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a shift across all social media platforms towards more authentic, less polished content, which for me is awesome because I've always been less polished. So now it's kind of met me. But yeah,
Totally.
they want something that's a little more authentic. They don't worry about it being doesn't have to be super produced. In fact, if something's got a lot of production behind it, they're almost wary of it because
Less
they're gonna think it's too
relatable, right?
salesy.
You
Yeah.
don't connect as much, I think, with that content.
Hmm. Yes. And now the brands are leveraging influencer marketing. Um, what kind of influences do they look for? We kind of touched on this in the last one, but like, what size audiences? They don't have to be the Kim Kardashians anymore. So what are they looking for? What works?
Look, I think it depends a lot on the products that you're trying to sell and the,
Hmm.
the audience you're going after, right? If you have a very mass market product, then you
Hmm.
need to amplify your reach as much as possible. And that means
Hmm.
going after as broad of an audience base as possible, whether that's with, individual creators that have a very big following
Hmm.
already. So you get, millions and millions of views from a concentration of creators with large followings, or by going after, a really broad distribution of creators. So, hundreds of different creators that each have, tens of thousands of views. But in
Hmm.
other cases, people have very specific products, and they need to go after very niche audiences. And so they're going to be
Hmm.
looking for creators that maybe only have, a couple thousand followers. So totally, not massive numbers, but are still willing to pay a lot because that audience perfectly overlaps. Like it's, that creator's audience is men who are 18 to 22 who have tattoos and who
Hmm.
enjoy, going on bicycle rides or
Hmm.
whatever, because that's exactly who they want to reach. And so they're willing to pay, a higher fee to get to that specific audience, right? So
hmm
so I think it really comes down to how specific your product is, how niche your product and your audience segment is, and that's gonna kind of drive who you want to go after.
Gotcha. Let's say for new brands that are considering getting on TikTok Shop, what would your recommendation be? How would they start? Obviously, they can reach out to TikTok through RangeMe to reach out around, but as far as what do they need to consider before they do that?
So one of the things we've done working with some new brands is help them kind of devise a launch strategy. So,
Hmm.
they'll come to Charm and they'll analyze, what does their market look like on TikTok, right? So first off, how big is their category or categories that they play in? How
Hmm.
fast are they growing? What are the price points of products that are selling really well? So they can get a sense of, how big is the opportunity for them and how competitive is their offering going to be on that platform. And then the second is what's working for incumbents there. So if they take some of their competitors, we could show them what are the creators doing that are really successful for their competitors, right? How much are their competitors spending on advertising? So they have an idea of how much budget it's going to take to amplify the creator strategy that they want to run with and which creators have done really well in their category or their space. So I think, like with anything else, that you have to do a little bit of research first and get some kind of, market and competitive insights to make sure that you're approaching it from the best possible angle.
Excellent. Very cool. So what happens if in April, right, where this executive order, nothing happens during that time, they can't get a cell, it shuts down again permanently. What happens? What do you recommend brands to do?
So look, I think that, it's not kind of a zero sum game. And what I mean by that is I think that if a ban were to end up happening and TikTok would go away, which, for the record, I strongly don't believe will be the case. I think
I don't think it'll be the case
here to
either. I
here to
agree. Yeah.
stay long term.
Too
Um,
many people are using it, too many people, too many small businesses depend
and
on it.
and it's too awesome.
Hmm.
You got your dude wipes in like 48 hours.
Yep.
Um, so I think, it's not a zero-sum game in that it's not that all of the sales that are happening on TikTok would be distributed across other places. Like there would be a net loss in total, volume of, if you want to call it economic activity, right? I do think that what would probably likely happen is that some portion of that would shift to the other major social platforms. So Meta would take some share. YouTube has been investing really heavily in their shorts offering. So I imagine that's going to take off. That's going to
Hmm.
be having more of a leaning towards commerce in the future.
I
Although,
hear Pinterest is going to launch something too.
oh, is it? I
I
didn't
believe
know
so.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Flip is another one, although theirs is I think more commerce focused and less social focused. And so I
Hmm.
don't know how well that's going to do in the long term, but we'll see. And then I think the other piece is that a lot of the retailers are going to also capitalize on some of the sales, right? So if you think about, on the beauty front, that's Ulta and Sephora recapturing some of the share that they may be missing out on because TikTok shop is capturing some of those beauty sales now.
Hmm.
Or, Amazon and Walmart for some of the, the general merchandise or across all these different categories. So I think it kind of depends. So those sales would obviously go somewhere for people who are, genuinely want to purchase something, but I think there would definitely be a net loss in terms of total
Hmm.
sales activity.
Gotcha. Well, um, hopefully that doesn't happen, and I agree with you. I think they'll find some way
For
of
sure.
making it work. Don't know what that is, but we still got time. It's a few months away. So just to wrap up, tell everybody about Charm. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so look, we recognize that over recent years, the e-commerce world has become increasingly fragmented, right? If you look a while back, the Wayback Machine, right? There was a few players that made up the vast majority of all retail activity in brick and mortar and e-commerce activity online. And as direct to consumer became a bigger part of where people shopped and every brand started launching a DTC presence, we saw an opportunity to be the measurement for all of those direct-to-consumer brands. And so we built, a brand discovery and analysis platform where we track and measure about 4 million direct-to-consumer brands across every product category and country in the world. Everything from baby products and apparel to beauty and pet goods. And for all those brands, we track things like their social audience and engagement, their reseller distribution, their web traffic, ad activity. We take all of that and we run it through our machine learning models to score every brand based on their growth and success relative to their category.
Mhm.
And we provide that data mainly to retailers who are using us for merchandising, so to find the best brands and products to offer to their customers, and then also to investors who are looking to invest in consumer brands, whether that's from a sourcing or due diligence perspective in their
Mhm.
investment process.
Awesome. Well, everybody, you can find them on their website is right above his head. So definitely check it out. And Alex, thank you so much for the great info. And hopefully we'll get to do more of these throughout the year, which will mean they're still around.
Thanks, Joe. It was great talking to you.
Thank you.